All right, welcome to JC Sports. I'm your host, Joe Chap, Detroit Lions News Podcast on the JC Sports YouTube page. As always, you will be able to get the Detroit Lions News Podcast on this YouTube, or you can go wherever you get your podcast to download it. It's you'll get 2 a week during the season, maybe 3 a week, depending on the matchup, and we will keep you entertained for the rest of the football season, especially here on the YouTube. You'll get daily content. If you're a Michigan State fan, this is where you want to be because we're going to give you daily content. Now, in regards to the Detroit Lions, I put the header right here. Can the offense be better? And we all know Ben Johnson was a hell of an offensive coordinator for this Detroit Lions team. And I don't think anybody is doubting what Ben Johnson brought to this team and the way that he coached the offense. Obviously, we know Dan Campbell had a hand in the playbook. We obviously know that this is a great, talented team, a talented offense that any offensive coordinator would really love to have. When you talk about an offensive coordinator, a first-time offensive coordinator, coming to a team like the Detroit Lions, where not only do you have an elite wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have a great tight end in Sam Laporta. You have a great offensive line, and that's a great way to start. You have a veteran savvy quarterback, and then you have a speedster at wide receiver and Jameson Williams, and you have a two-headed punch at the running back position. Now, I say this because when I watched the Denver Broncos last year, which Johnny Morton was the passing game coordinator for the Denver Broncos, it was interesting because, if you hear Sean Payton talk, he's especially this, in training camp, he's saying he wants to get Bo Nix more used to playing under center. They didn't play it enough. And if you look at the statistics, they spent 80% of the time in the shotgun position. Now, what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, this is what it means. Johnny Morton, as the pass game coordinator, really had to put his best foot forward. Now, of course, Bo Nix could run, and Bo Nix was a very good runner, especially when he did the QB powers and all that jazz. And Jared Goff is not that type of quarterback. But what I'm hearing from people in terms of training camp, you're hearing from Jameson Williams, you're hearing from Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is saying that he's taking snaps around the wide receiver position. He's getting split out wide. And Dave Montgomery's in the backfield. Even this is from Raymond. He said this about Scotty Montgomery moving the wide receiver coach. Leaf was elusive in his praising the detail and precision demanded from Montgomery and the new OC Johnny Morton. And I talked about it. This was such a great team last year. And there was times where the precision wasn't always there. And they got away with it because they're talented, man. This offense is talented and they can get away with it. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a freakazoid. I mean, some of the catches that he can make in traffic is absolutely phenomenal. And you heard and then Jameson Williams talked to Tim Twentyman today of the Detroit Lions News, DetroitLions.com. He said this: Coach Johnny Mo is letting me run more routes. He said, I know I can run more routes, and he's putting me in the position to run more routes. I'm getting better with cuts and angles on how to run this route and that route, and I say I'm more polished in my route game. Here's the thing. When we talk about Jameson Williams, when we talk about Jahmyr Gibbs being split out wide, when we talk about Jameson Williams getting more routes in the route tree, when we talk about a guy in Johnny Morton who is every little thing that he likes to do in terms of his play calling is set up for the Detroit Lions. This is his philosophy. He wants sound decision making, explosive plays, and excelling on third down. The big play alerts, it's 16 plus yards in the pass game, and the run game 11 plus yards. When you have a guy like Jameson Williams, it's pretty easy to get the ball to this kid and get him wide open. A guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, he's one cut away from getting 11 plus yards. I feel like Johnny Morton can get more out of this offense than Ben Johnson did. And that's scary saying that because this was a damn good offense under Ben Johnson. But if this is more precise and they're demanding precision and they're demanding, just being calculated in every position, I feel like this will benefit the Detroit Lions way more going into this season, especially with the teams that they are going to play. And look, we don't know how this is going to shake out. Obviously, when you get a new offensive coordinator, we know that things can be different. Obviously, we know this is not the same offensive line. Frank Ragnow left in retirement, and you got Chris Mahogany that's going to start at guard. Graham Glasgow is going to start at guard, and you got Tate Ratledge who's going to start at center. It's going to be an interesting, kind of figuring out that. But I'm more impressed with the way that Johnny Morton is getting this playbook ready to go. Like splitting Jahmyr Gibbs out wide is something I always ask for. I've always asked for Jahmyr Gibbs to be split out wide and Dave Montgomery to be in the backfield. Because as a defense, when you see that, if you're a linebacker and you're sitting there and you're like, that zero is out there, but who's gonna, the linebacker, who's gonna stay in position to stop Dave Montgomery? And then you realize, oh, one's out there, Jameson Williams is out there, and he's single coverage. Well, now the linebacker who's helping in the run game for Dave Montgomery, he's got to go over and shade a little bit the Jameson Williams way, and then that opens up a slot for Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love the way that Johnny Morton is putting this thing together, and I think that he's going to do a damn good job with this offense. And I think he might be better for this team, especially with the cascade of players, than Ben Johnson was. And that's saying a lot, but the reality of the situation is this. Ben Johnson had the luxury of coaching one of the best teams, one of the most talented offenses in pro football. Johnny Morton has the same objective. He's got a veteran-savvy quarterback who makes sound decisions. He has a great wide receiver in Jameson Williams who he's a threat every time he catches the ball. You got a Jahmyr Gibbs who's a threat every time he touches the ball. Sam Laporta is a reliable tight end. Amon-Ra St. Brown is an elite route runner. He's an elite pass catcher. And any offensive coordinator would love to have these guys. That's just the reality of the situation. Last year, Jameson Williams, he had 1,000 yards. He had 1,000 yards on 58 receptions. He had 17.3 yards per catch. We go back to what Johnny Morton, his big play alert and all that jazz. His big play alerts plus 16 plus yards. That's what Jameson Williams averaged in yards per catch. So there's no doubt the reason why they're going to try to get Jameson Williams the ball and get him more routes in the route tree, because he's such a unique talent. He's so fast. He's so physical. If he just gets a physical element to the way that he bounces off players, he's going to be fine. But what I love about Johnny Morton, and I'll say it again, if you put in position where you got Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams on the same side of the field with Dave Montgomery in the backfield, St. Brown on the other side of the field, Laporta coming out of, one of the tight end sets, this could be an explosive offense just because of the cascade of talent and the unique playmakers that you have on this Detroit Lions team. And that was all going to hinge on the offensive line, but I will bet my money that Hank Fraley will do a damn good job at getting these guys ready to play. I guarantee that. So we'll see what happens with this Detroit Lions team. But at this point in time, man, I think Johnny Morton is the right pick for the Detroit Lions. I think the way that he's been, putting these players together and trying to put them in strategies, the best way to succeed. I watched what he did with Bo Nix last year. Bo Nix was running on half a playbook, and they did a damn good job with that. So Bo Nix is great, but Jared Goff is a guy who can do any snap, any play. So we'll see what happens with the Detroit Lions, especially going into the first preseason game. Maybe we'll get some, throws with Hendon Hooker and Kyle Allen. We'll talk about that on the Detroit Lions News Podcast on the J Sports YouTube page. As always, subscribe, follow, rate, review if you're on the podcast. And if you're on the YouTube, subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll definitely get back to you when that happens. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.